Hello, thanks for checking out another one of my videos. My name's Isaac Ostrom and today is another episode of Tile Coach. So today I'm going to be working on floating a shower curb. And I wanted to show this video because I've seen a lot of stuff out on YouTube that I don't know how guys are doing their curbs, but the thing with the shower curb is you and the vinyl liners is you cannot puncture this liner below 2 inches below the top of the curb. So if you're not floating it, I don't know how guys are doing it. I mean, if you can't screw in the top and you can't screw on the inside, you obviously can't put board on there. So, you know, if you do screw through the vinyl liner, the warranty is no good, and I can pretty much assure, I've seen a lot of tear outs where guys have just screwed hardy backer into the top of the curb and it rots out. The top of the curb is one of the leading places, and these corners right here where you get dry rot. So I'm going to show you how to float it. It's a pretty simple process, so stay tuned and we'll get going with it. So first thing I'm going to do is preform my piece of wire using my straight edge here. Again, these straight edges are great. If you're a tile installer, you'll definitely want to be using straight edges. They're good for not only floating walls. If you have a backsplash, you can use thin set and rot it off to fill in any low spots. On a floor, you can use it to fill in low spots. And they typically come in a set. I have a set of a bunch of different edges of different lengths. For about 50 bucks, you can get one from your tile shop, and you'll use it almost on every tile job. So I'm going to preform my wire using this. So I'll just take my wire and figure out about where I need to fold it. I'm going to take my edge. I'm going to give it a nice fold. Diamond lath works really well for this too. We just use our wire here because this is what we use on the walls, and we just always have it. So diamond lath would work really well too. So I got this. Now I'm going to take it out. Basically, I have my wire preformed here, so you can see. I'm just going to slip it over the curb as best as I can. Okay, so it's almost like spring loaded here. It's ready to go. Now this is very important. No staples on the inside, no staples on the top. I'm just going to take my staple gun and hit a few on the outside. Okay, so I have my wire secured, and now it's ready for me to mix some mud. Okay, so I got my mud mixed up. What I'm using here is fat mud. Here in California, we have a product called Dynacrete. I love this, but you can use like a Type S mortar, anything, you know, sand, cement, lime is usually what it consists of. You can make your own, do like a 5-part sand, 1 part cement, 1 part lime or fire clay, and you're basically ending up with, you know, just like a brick mortar consistency. We call it fat mud. So I'm going to go ahead and take my hawk here, and I'm going to put mud on the top of the curb. I'm going to get a nice thick layer, maybe, you know, maybe 2 inches thick on the top. Kind of get it, burn it in a little bit. I always say push it in a little bit. Take some of that off there. There's my level. Okay, so I have a layer right across the top. Again, it's maybe 1.5 inches thick about. Doesn't need to be perfect. Now I'm going to put some mud on the inside. And you want to marry up the two. Let's see. You want to marry up the mud on the inside with the top, and that kind of holds it in. So if I bring it up, see how I'm just kind of marrying the two together, pushing them together so it forms a little bit of 90-degree angle there. Just getting the first layer of mud on here. So the sides I'm aiming for about 3/4 inch thick. Connected, kind of straighten it out a little bit just to give it some good initial shape. Nothing needs to be perfect. I'll do the same thing here on the outside. Somewhat consistent. We're looking for, you know, maybe 3/4 inch thick. You may need to go a little more if it's your first time, but you can always add more mud. So I'm just doing my best to kind of shape this and get it somewhat close. Again, you can always fill in later. Next thing I'm going to do is take my float strips. So these are pieces of redwood. You can find them in the lattice section. So they are just 1/4 inch pieces of redwood. I like redwood because it doesn't warp. If you use pine or other hardwoods, they get wet and they just start twisting. Redwood really holds its shape when it gets wet. So I get them wet first so they won't stick into my mud. These are my screed strips. So this is going to be my guide to where my float's going to end up. And you might ask, why are they so long? Well, I'll show you in a minute here. So I'm going to go ahead, start with the inside, and just embed those strips as far in as you can to where that your finish thickness of the mud is going to be somewhere around 5/8 to 3/4. So I'm just embedding these float strips. You want to be somewhat plumb here. Plumb meaning level up and down. Next thing I'm going to do is take my tape measure, and I am going to measure from the back wall to my float strips so that I know that I get this curb square with the rest of my shower. So I have just over 30 1/8 there, and I have 30 1/4. So that means I need to come a little more in on this one. And we'll see 30 1/4. The next thing I'm going to do is take my level and make sure that these strips are plumb. So I need to go in on the bottom a little bit. And the bubbles in the middle. Again. So now I'm going to do the outside, do the same thing on the outside, and I'm going to do directly across. Directly across, I'm going to embed this strip. Again, you want it to be, so if these are 1/4 inch, you want at least 1/4 inch of mud behind it, preferably like 3/8 behind it. So it's there. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the measurement from here, which is 5 1/4, and I want to make sure this is the same because you don't want your curb skinny and then wide on one end, so you want these guys to be the same. So I'm 5 1/2, 5 3/8. I want to come in a little bit, and you can also check plumb with it. Now I got my screed set, and as you can see, why I leave these long is as I screed with my straight edge, as I screed down these strips, I want to see if these strips get kicked in or out, and it's real easy to tell if this strip goes in, if they're tall. If they're short, you don't know if it's getting kicked or not. So I like to leave them up just as kind of an eyeball guide. So now that I have my strips, I'm just going to be careful, and again, I'm not really pushing hard against the strips. I'm just kind of using the strips as guide to kind of cut down the mud. And you can watch the float strips to see if you're pushing on them too much. Like that. It also helps to get these float strips wet too, so put a sponge on them and get them wet, and the mud won't stick to them. And you want to use a sawing motion when you're doing the edges, back and forth, or else the mud's going to stick and you're just going to pull it off. So you can leave the edge, and then you can double check again, like I'll see, okay, yep, good. So that's why you leave the float strips long, because you can really tell what's going on with your float. I got a nice flat true surface on the inside. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the outside, the exact same thing to the front. So yeah, I always go slide from the top down. It seems to work better for me that way. To start, rested lightly against the float strips, go one way and back the other, and just kind of take it down. Again, if you're not pushed all the way against the float strip, it's not the end of the world, because you're going to get it on the next pass. So probably the worst thing you could do is just push down too hard on your edge. I'm just taking some of the extra off here. I got kind of fat in the middle. So back and forth, letting it go down. The low spot I'm going to fill in right now. Low spot there. So you can always fill in your low spots. Margin trowel is a great tool. And for that matter, you can even fill in your low spots with thin set when you're setting. I mean, you do not need to get this perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take a little more off. Again, lightly against the strips, just using them as a guide. Coming down, working it out. Take a little more. I got a little spot here that's kind of popping out. I'm going to fill that guy in, no problem, no problem. Again, let's see. But really with the curve, this downward slicing action just works really well. It keeps, you know, the flat part of your edge here, it keeps it up against the float strips, and it's a lot easier to handle than putting the edge right against it. So. Okay, so I'm really happy with the inside and the outside of my curb here. I will double check, just to double check again. I'm 5 1/4 there. I'm 5 1/4 there. You can recheck for plumbness. You know, just recheck, and I am good there. So yeah, it's this is ready, and I'm gonna let this sit for just a minute. Maybe I'll clean up some tools. You know, grab a donut or something, chill out, kind of let this set up a little bit more. Then I'll pull the strips, and I'll show you how I float the top of it to get it nice and... Okay, so now I took a little break, came back. It's time now to take out my float strips, and usually you can just gently wiggle and pull up on them. Sometimes you have to cut the mud from the side, like just score it a little bit here on either side, and then they'll pull right up. They pop right out. That's one reason why we get them wet. They'll usually pop right out. Again, on this side, just a little wiggle, pull up, little wiggle. Come on, baby, come on. There we go. And again with this one, just gonna wiggle and pull up. And if they don't come out, make sure you score them so it doesn't rip your float apart. What I'm gonna do is actually fill in where my float strips were. And take a little bit of mud here and fill in where my wood was. Okay, I got my mud in. Now I can take my rub float. Again, it's best if you get it wet. This is actually a foam wood float. I love these. I don't even know where to get them. I get them at my tile shop, but this one's probably 6 or 7 years old. And then you can just rub out the extra that you put into the float strips here. Okay, I got my inside and my outside done. Now here's a tricky part. If you have a helper or somebody to give you a hand, this is a lot easier with 2 people. I've been doing it long enough though, I can make it work with just 1. So you're gonna need a level edge here. And I'm gonna start with the inside. So this is what I'm doing here, using the edge in my level. And I'm gonna go to a point. I'm just going to hold this to a point where I know that I'm not going to go past the lowest spot of the top of my float. Remember, I put about 1.5 inches on the top of the curb here, so I can take off plenty. I'm just going to give myself a nice level line, and it looks like overall I'm about 3/8 below the top here. So what I'm going to do now is just gently take off the top of the mud. Watching the bubble in the middle here, I'm just going to give myself, I'm not too worried about the outside edge here, I'm more worried about the inside. Just scraping off to give myself a level line on the inside. And you can see why this would be easier with 2 people. Again, I'm not really pushing on the edge because it would push my level down and get me out of level. But I'm also, if you can see here, I'm creating a slope going this way, so I'm not level on the top. I want the water to drain into the shower. So I'm creating a slope on here. So now my inside of my curb is nice and level. I know that because I can see my level. The outside isn't though. Didn't have an edge. So if you have 2 people, you can actually hold 2 edges up at the same time and just screed right off the top of both of them, which makes it really easy. But to do it one hand like this is what I usually do this while the helper's out cleaning up or something. I don't really need 2 people. So I'm going to do the same thing on the outside. I'm going to pick a point. Now I'm looking for slope. So first I'm just going to eyeball it. I want about a 1/4 inch per foot, so I want about 1/8 inch higher on the outside line than the inside. So you can see I'm getting my bubble in the middle here, kind of eyeballing it, and if you want, you can, I'm going to go up just to be safe. You can take off a little bit here. So I'm using this inside line as my guide. I'm going to make sure not to go past that, kind of free form here. I'm going to take this, put my level on there, and I got a good slope. So I know that if I hold my edge here and keep it level all the way across, I'm going to be good. So again, I'm just shaving off little bits at a time. Shaving off little bits at a time, careful, being really careful of this inside edge. I do not want to go past it. I don't need to go all the way to it, but I definitely don't want to go past it. And again, with floating, it's kind of the back and forth motion that's really going to help you. If you just pull up and push, it's going to move this mud all around, and it's going to do things you don't want it to do. Okay, so now back to the other side. And I'm going to go back and just do like a final and make sure I'm getting off everything there. So that's a good looking curb right there. Now just be careful again, back and forth. When you pull up on these edges, you don't want to just pull straight out. And there we go. Curb, I don't want to screw it up. You can let this sit for a while, like an hour if you want, if you got it. But if not, you could even come back tomorrow. This mud is still going to be shapeable, so you can come back tomorrow. A lot of times what I'll do on our floats, come back the next day, so don't float on a Friday, float like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you can come back the next day, take your edge, and it'll still be soft enough. It'll be hard, but you can still shape it. So you can take it and take out any of the bumps on the top. I really don't have any. This is a really good float, man. I still got it. If I put my level here, I just got to show this to you guys. If I put the level there, I want you guys to see that bubble. It is right in the middle. And then again, if you put your slope right here, you can't really see it, but I have a good 1/4 inch per foot slope there. So again, this is a beautiful, if you've never sat on a float, I just encourage you to try it and do it, because how awesome is it to come in with your tile and know that your curb is plumb, it's square off the wall, it's straight, it's flat, there's no filling in, there's no BS to have to deal with, and it's just a beautiful way to set tile. And you can actually set tile on it when it's still wet. I could grab, if I had like a light bisque tile, like a Dow Subway or something, I could set this curb right now. Just mix your thin set really loose and set it, but I'm not. So last thing I'm going to do is take my rub float and just kind of take out any imperfections in the top, any imperfections on the side. Being careful, you know, never pull up on your float like this. You always want to rub it side to side. And then lastly, if you want to give it a real smooth finish, just go over everything with your flat trowel. You can shape any corners still. So there we go, all done. We got a shower curb. Again, thanks for checking out my videos, guys. Again, my goal here is to help you guys become better at what you do so that you guys take it out into the real world and make it happen, man. If you're thinking about getting into the trades, if you're doing a job you don't like to do, hey man, jump in, you know, feet first, I'd say. Watch videos like this, talk to other people that you respect, not by what they say, but what they do. If you follow those rules, work hard, and be honest, sky's the limit, guys. So hey, thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you soon.